Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is Andy 245, and we are back for Module 8 to show you how to do your renders for your posing. Very simple. We're just going to go ahead and create some directional lights in here. So I'm going to go to Create Lights, and we're going to create a directional light. We're going to go ahead and add that into our scene. We're going to use Arnold to render, so let's go ahead and get that set up. Let's go ahead and rotate that light so we can see it. We want it facing the character, okay? Maybe off to the left a little bit, depending on how we want our camera to be, okay? We want it facing our character. So when I go into lighting in here, we're going to click on Use All Lights. And there's our light source. You can see it's really black behind. So this is our light source right here. And this will create our shadow that we want. Okay. So we can see that we've got our directional light. We're going to have Arnold on. We're going to have cast shadows on. Samples, we'll set it to. And we don't want a dark shadow in here. We can go ahead and render that, but let's go ahead and see what we got so far. So click on Render Settings, make sure Arnold is selected as your renderer. And we're going to keep it at 322 all the way down. Commons, we're going to make sure that we set this up at HD 1080. And that's about it for now. That's all we need right now. Let's go ahead and render that out to see what that looks like. Oh, let's go ahead and set up our frame. See what we want here for a frame. We want it about something like that so we can get our silhouette over on this side. So we can kind of add that silhouette in here using a program like Photoshop. And we'll compose those two together. Alright, so something like that would be good. And then that will give enough room over on this side to add the silhouette. Okay, so get your camera set up the way you want it. And go ahead and do a render and see how that looks. And you can see that we are looks pretty good. Maybe move our character over on and maybe move that over to that side a little bit more, but that looks pretty good. So I'll make some and it's a little bit dark. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move this over a little bit like that. Whoops, we don't want to do that. Maybe scale it over this way a little bit like that. Something that looks like that would be good, maybe. Okay, there we go. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do our another render real quick. There it is. Re-render it. Okay, you have to click on that little arrow up there to get it rendered again. And we want to probably set up, maybe make it a little bit deeper, wider this way so we can catch all the shadows. Let's render it again. There we go. Now you can see the shadow. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now it's a little bit dark, I think. So let's go ahead and lighten that up. I like my composition now, so I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to Cameras, or go to View, go to Bookmarks, go to Edit Bookmarks, click on New Bookmark. I'm going to call that Character Cam. CAM for camera, and we're going to do _01, and we'll click on Enter, apply that, and close. You can put it on your shelf if you want to, if you're on animation. But right now, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move. I'm going to give a little more more intensity. So I'm going to turn the exposure to 1.2, enter, and go up to intensity of 1.2, and let's see how that looks. And let's go ahead and go to View, Bookmarks, Character Cam 1, and let's go ahead and render that. And of course it remembers what I did last time, so I'm going to click on the arrow up in the upper right hand corner, and that looks a lot better. Alright, so the shadow looks good, the character looks good, we've got a little shadow on the character, got some nice strong lighting. That looks good. I'm okay with the little highlights on the character. That's fine with me. Just make sure that you don't have any dark renders, and I do not. There's a little shadow back here, which is good. If you're going to show the back of the character, then you're going to have trouble, so you're going to have to make sure that you light your scene up properly. I want to be able to see the character and the character pose. And if we want to see a white background, we can make that white, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to close that. So what we want to do is we want to go to View, and we want to go, because we're rendering from the perspective, we want to go into the camera attribute editor. Okay, if that doesn't open up right away, then we can continue to try. So click on View and camera attribute editor. Sometimes it doesn't open up, but it did for me the first time. So if it doesn't, just try it twice. Scroll down, and what we're looking for is environment, and in here we want just to put white. Okay, and when we do that, we can go ahead and re-render this. Click on render, and we have to re-render, so click on the up in the right hand corner, upper right hand corner is the start. Okay, let's try that again. Is it not rendering? Usually that works. Okay, if that doesn't work, then we can then add a dome. Okay, so that might work for us. So I'm going to close that. So I'm going to add a dome. So I'm going to go in here to Arnold up here at the right upper shelf, and click on this, and this will blow it out, of course. So we're going to bring the intensity down to something like 0.1, okay, and scroll down to exposure at 0.1. Okay, so this will help a little bit. It'll still have the shadow on there, but this time we don't want to cast shadows with this, and we want the camera to be 1. That should give us white, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and render this again and render that, and we have kind of a gray color, okay, on the character. Or we can put a white background on there, which is fine, because I do not want to turn the intensity up. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and duplicate the floor, Control D, and move it, okay, move it out a little bit away from the character, and then rotate it like so. Let's do 90 on that, and all right, I think that's okay. And of course, scale that up to fit the scene. I'm going to rotate this around a little bit so I can see what I'm doing, and make that bigger so it fits the back of the screen. And we want to add a material to this, assign new material. And I want this material to be an Arnold shader and AI standard surface. And when I go in here, the color will be white. Okay, so make sure it is white, and it needs to be pure white. So the weight needs to be all the way up, the white. The roughness needs to be totally flat. I do not want it to reflect anything. I want the IOR to 1. Okay. Geometry, we want opacity to be 100. Transmission, we want the weight to be at 100. The color to be a 1. Well, transmission, maybe that's not what I want. Subsurface. sheen emission. We want emission to be 1. There we go. So you want emission to be 1 because we don't want to show any shadows or anything on there. Okay. And then object also, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have. So let's go to, we're still in our perspective view. Let's go to view and let's go to bookmarks and let's go ahead and render this and see what happens with this. There we go. Of course, the white is going to reflect on the ground, but that's okay. All right, so that gives us a nice spot for black and white or silhouette up in the corner here. So I'm happy with that. All right, so it rendered pretty quickly, so I think we're okay with turning up the Arnold settings. Turn this up to 6. There we go. And I think that's good. Everything else is looking good. The only thing I want to extend is the floor, so I don't see it in the frame. So I think everything looks good. If you find that the background or the sky dome, you can see that I've got my outliner open. You can go to Windows and click on outliner to see it. You can see my directional light and my dome light are easily selectable in the outliner. So if you need to scale something or change something, you just click on it and go to Control A, and that will open this up. And you can see that I've got an intensity of very low. You don't need a high intensity on the dome. And that looks really good. And the flat plane, of course, we can see that this is our background. I'll just go ahead and call that BG background and then underscore TX. And I think what we have here for the base colors white, for the specular colors white. You can see everything that I've got here. Roughness is 0, IOR is 1, and again I didn't use transmission, subsurface, coat, or sheen. I clicked on emission and make sure that weight is up. That means that no shadows will show. It's actually giving light off. So it will slow down the renders just a teeny bit, but not too bad. And then when we render, you can see that the render will take a little bit longer than a couple seconds. This will give us a better image, about the best image we can get. And it will take around 30 to 60 to maybe a minute, 60 seconds, then maybe over a minute depending on how fast your CPU is on your computer. It could take up to 2 minutes. I don't know. I've got a 2080 RTX, so it's an older video card. So it's around 32 seconds. And once it stops, you can see at the bottom it stops and tells you how much memory it takes to render. And there that is. So that's all finished. And then all we have to do is go to, we can see we have beauty right here. We're going to go to file. We're going to go to save image. Okay. In here we can name it whatever you want to. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my images folder for safekeeping, and I'm going to call this pose 01, and then we'll have 20 poses, so we're just going to do one. And you guys know what to do with the rest of them, so just go ahead and click on save. Now it will save automatically as a JPEG, but a lot of times I'll just type in .jpg. Most of the time it will default at JPEG, but if you want a different file format, you have to type it in .png, .tga. But I just type in .jpg. Make sure that you spell that right. JPEG. And make sure you save it out. So save it out. So that's your that is your beauty pass. Okay, that's it for rendering, and then I'm going to show you how to do the silhouette. To get our silhouette from our image, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our floor to a layer and rename it floor and turn that off. You're going to select your wall, add it to a layer, okay, and turn that off. And you're going to select your dome and you're going to add that to a layer and turn that off. Okay, so we can turn those off and on Okay, if we want to render, we create another pose. We can turn these back on and render those out, and then turn them back off to do the silhouette. So to do the silhouette, we need to have them off, and we're going to go ahead and do one more render. Click on render. Okay, we're going to see the character in this pose right here. We're going to go ahead and make sure we scale that up to the size of our screen as close as we can, top and bottom. Okay, something like that would be good. And then you're going to click on 1:1, and then you're going to click on view, and you're going to click on alpha channel. When you have that finished, then you're going to hit the Windows key on your keyboard. Okay, it's right by the Alt key. Do that, you're going to type in S, and that should bring up snipping tool. I'm going to click on the snipping tool. We're going to click on new. Okay, and then you're going to create just a little area like this. You're going to select this area right here of your character, just like that. Okay, and then this will open up, and you will click on save, and you will save that to your folder where your project is, wherever that may be. You can see I've got that image there. I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to click on this and do underscore alpha. Okay, alpha. It's going to be a JPEG, so I'm going to click on save. And that's it. That's our saved silhouette. Close the render. And make sure you save your scene. Of course, make sure you save your scene with the wall, floor, and dome turned on. Okay. And save your scene. So file, save scene as. You're going to have to make sure you save this as by ASCII. Okay. All right. And I would just kind of put in, this is our first pose. So I'm going to type in pose 01. And we'll save that out. Save. And I would do this whole progression for every one of your poses. Okay. And then you'll be finished. And then we'll move on into Photoshop. Alright, so with Photoshop open, you can also use GIMP. You can download that. That's free for Windows. And it's the same process. So go to File, and we're going to click on New. And I want you to click on Custom 1920 by 1080, 72 ppi, and click Create. And then I want you to go ahead and find your images, and I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop those in here. When that opens up, hit Enter. And then I'm going to drag the alpha map in there as well. Okay, and then of course hit Enter. Okay, the alpha will be above it, so all you have to do when you click on the alpha in here, let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. All right, so with that open, we're going to click on the alpha layer, and we're going to go ahead and go to Image, Adjustments, Invert, and we're going to take that, we're just going to move that up in the corner. And this stuff is getting in the way, so I'm just going to move that up in the corner like that. And we're going to probably make that a little bit smaller. So all we need to do is scale this down a little bit. So right click over the alpha image and go to rasterize layer. When you do that, you can go to edit and go down to scale, transform scale. And now you can just scale that down to the size you want. Something like that would be good. And hit Enter to finish it up. When you're all done, we're going to go ahead and flatten the image. So let's go to Layer. Let's flatten the image. And now we can save it out. File, Save Scene As, and to my computer. Of course, I want it to go to where my folder is. And I'm going to call it something like pose 01 fin, finished. And click on save. We want it to be a JPEG, so finish, save. Highest quality is 12. Click on OK. and that's what you'll be turning in, submitting. So you'll have 20 of these with the pose and the silhouette together. If you can't get the pose and the silhouette together, then I want to see 40 of these. Then you'll have 20 of your poses rendered out, and then you'll have 20 of your silhouettes rendered out, so you can, or screenshot it out. And so I need to see those. Well, that's it, and I'll see you in the next video.